Well, anyway, when we were got together up there at the back of the chase fields, of course I'm there. Dad has a buck, and Paul has a buck, and I'm really bummed out because I should have had one as well. And anyway, everybody told the stories about Paul shot his 8 point, and evidently when Paul first got there and met my dad, when as Paul was turning up to go back along the fields, he saw a buck run across the chase field in front of the brick house and run into the pasture field. And it goes into that pasture field. And so Paul says to Dad, you want to go you want a buck? I just saw one run into the pasture field. And Dad just said to him, well, how big is it? And he said, oh, it's about a 4-point. Dad, oh, I don't want to shoot no 4-point. He said, what do you mean? You know, Paul was kind of put out. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, look in the back of the truck here. And so he pointed in the back of the truck, and here my dad had this buck he shot up at Brisbane. And when he shot it that morning, of course the snow was deep, and it was laying in the snow like that. And when Dad went up to it, he thought, boy, there's the buck of my lifetime. And he had never shot anything this big, and so he grabbed a hold of its head. He saw it was only one horn on that side, but it was really a big buck. So anyway, Paul and them were there, and then I come up and I tell them my story about missing this buck and so forth, which was nothing new to anybody. And so we decided to put together a little drive, and Steve was with us, and so we went out to the pasture field, out at the corner of the fields, and Paul went up the road above the brick house, and he circled around the Rolls farm and come down through that swamp. I was the first one dropped off there on the other side of the stone bridge on the corner there, and he had just bulldozed a road up through the pasture field now, cutting timber. So I'm kind of watching the main road there, the hard road, not the hard road, but the main road there, going to Mises and going out to the corner there to the chase place, and there was a little bit up in the road that went up into the middle of the pasture field. So I'm sitting on the other side of the road, and I'm watching on this corner. Dad takes Steve on out farther where he knew they crossed and drops him off, and Paul just gets the drive started, and I look up the road there in the field, and I see this deer standing in the middle of the road, and he stops, and I put the scope on it. It had my 30-06. I couldn't see no horns on it. Looked like a doe, so I'm watching this road because I'm afraid they're going to jump across this road, and I got to be ready. The deer turns around and comes back in the woods and comes right down along the edge. I didn't know it, but he went back in the woods where it came from, and pretty soon I look, and here is this deer standing right on the corner, ready to come across the road and stuff. And as soon as I saw it, it saw me, and I saw it was a buck, and I saw that it had points on it, and I pull up a 30-06. Again, I'm usually getting nervous. It happened so fast, I didn't even have a chance to get nervous. I pulled up, and as soon as I pulled up, looked in the open sights, it wheels around, it's going to turn around, and it's going to leave, and I squeeze one off. And I didn't see right away because it's so thick with crab apples in there. So I go up around and I see that it's laying there, and it's trying to get back up, and I'm excited. I hit my first buck. I'm all excited. I pull up, I shoot again, and when I shoot the second time, I shoot it right through the ear. I put a hole in the ear of it, and I pull up the third time, and again he's jumping around. I'm trying to get a shot at. I shoot again, and I don't know where. I'm trying to get it in the neck, trying to finish off. Don't want to shoot it up. Of course, we don't want to waste any meat. We're like, living off the land. We may not survive the winter if I shoot this deer up. so I shot it once, shot it twice, shot it 3 times. Now, and the deer still jumping. Finally, the deer just finally dies. I don't know, he died of shock, he's scared to death, what he did, took a heart attack. So Paul, he's up, not very far up in the woods, and I go down, I grab a hold of my deer, Again, snow is deep. I pick up the deer by the head, and there's no horns on it. And I can't say, oh my goodness, what did I do? Shoot that doe? Or was there a doe behind it? Or something. He wheeled around there, and I got looking, and here, the only thing I saw was this on its head. I shot all the horns off of it. So now I'm shot the horns all off of my very first buck that I have been hunting, and I'm 17 years old, and I shoot all the horns off. And so I start digging in the snow, and I dug up the rest of the horns. And for years and years, I had this thing together. I taped this together. I tried to do everything I could to look like I had a buck. And to me, I think it was a 6-point. It looks like there was a brow point there, and there looks like there was a little brow point there, so it was probably a 6-point. And so we threw it in the vehicle, and what I found out was that buck was the same one I missed in the morning. How do I know that? Well, I found out that it was hit already. It had a hunk out of the hind quarter, a hunk of meat taken out. The morning I missed it, there was shooting ahead of it, or ahead of me before I shot at. There was shooting, and a fellow by the name of Chet Switella shot at this deer. It was running by him, and he took the hair out of it, a hunk of meat out of it. It never really hurt the deer. It wasn't no vital shot, and it runs over to me, and then I miss it, and it must have went up out of the rafting ground and went up into the old fields there behind the fields, and then it ran across the field. So ended up, I shot the deer that I missed that morning, and this was the very first one. And it took me a lot of years to get this, and I hunted hard every year, but it turned out to be the kind of the monkey off of my back, because after I shot this one, then I was able to start shooting a lot more bucks, and I didn't get nervous, and that's just some of them. So I guess the moral of the story is just keep trying, and eventually you'll get one, and then after that, sometimes they come a little bit easier. They come easier after you get that first one. So that's the story of my first buck. This is the story of my dad's last buck. This was the last one he shot. He shot that December, and he passed away in 1976. So from that time on, hunting, we were all on our own, and we had to hunt from what he taught us, the places that he taught us, and so as you can see, for the most part, he taught us a lot about where the deer were.